Welcome to the Goat's Gravy, the ultimate podcast tailored for young professionals navigating the dynamic world of sales and sales leadership. We are here to serve up a blend of mentorship and advice. In each episode, we dive deep into conversations with accomplished leaders and rising stars in the sales industry. Together, we explore their triumphs, challenges, and invaluable experiences. Our goal? To distill their insights into practical lessons that can seamlessly integrate into your own career journey. So whether you're a seasoned sales expert or just starting out, join us as we ladle out wisdom and inspiration, empowering you to excel in the ever-evolving landscape of sales. Onward we go. Welcome to Season 2 of the Goat's Gravy, a podcast created for young professionals navigating the dynamic world of sales and sales leadership. I'm Billy Shaw, along with my co-host Scott Atwater and our producer Demetri Morris, and we've got a special guest to kick off Season 2 today. Not only an outstanding seller and leader, but also an even greater human being. Scotty, who's this special guest?
Let me tell you about it, Billy. Lara El-Ghazal.
Lara! And she's got a fascinating background. Born and raised in Qatar, studied at William Patterson University in New Jersey, now living in Cincinnati, Ohio, more specifically Blue Ash, where I actually began my medical device career at Ethicon Endosurgery, home to Ethicon. Her professional selling career began as an inside sales representative at EMC, where she quickly rose through the ranks with multiple selling positions over 12 years, including an enterprise selling role. She also became a district sales manager and even became an EMC TV anchor.
Can't wait to hear about that, Billy.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I look forward to hearing more about that and some of her other experiences. Currently, she's leading a sales team at ServiceNow, not only impacting the business in a very positive way, but she's developing the next generation of
rising stars.
That's right, rising stars. Off the field, Lara enjoys time with her husband and 3 children. She also has a special talent as a musician, playing the guitar and belting tunes, leading the way with Cincinnati karaoke. And she's passionate about giving back, which is what we both love. She's a mentor with different organizations like Boys and Girls Hope and Big Brothers Big Sisters. Please welcome Lara.
Wow.
Demetri, where's our sound effects? Come on, where's the clapping?
Welcome, Lara.
Thank you
Lara.
so much. That was a very generous intro.
There it is.
I love that. Season 2 got us a clap machine. That's how successful this podcast is.
7 listeners. We're going to try to get to 10 this year, double digits.
Nice.
Well, Lara, welcome. So happy to see you.
You as well. This is so nice. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course. So I'm going to kick it off here with a quick question. Your background is so interesting. I can't wait to dig in. So from Qatar to New Jersey to Blue Ash. And this is what it's resulted in thus far. I've done a little homework, talked to some people that you might work with. So here's what they're saying about you, Lara. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
High energy,
Love that.
strong conviction,
Very important.
servant leader.
Love it.
And this is the last one. I can't tell you who told me. Ferocious bulldog.
Wow.
Is this where I
You
bark?
all are negotiating up the organization. Yeah.
Ferocious bulldog. So the question is, with your background, and obviously people have a lot of great things to say about you, including me. How did that happen? Just, from your beginnings, just how did it start?
So I'll start with how I landed in Jersey, of all places, for college. And it was interesting because when I started at William Patterson, I learned what a reach school was. I learned what a safe school was, because me and my 2 sisters only applied to one school, and that is William Patterson, simply because it was a half a mile from my grandparents' house. And my parents were shipping us off at the age of 16 to America for college. For them, it was about securing a more secure and stable future for us as their kids. And for me, it was like moving to America. Not quite Eddie Murphy, but so many similarities of just cultural shock and so on and so forth. But, God puts great people in your path. I was embraced. and found myself at the sales school at William Patterson. Another great
Wow.
story. Do you remember the troll dolls with the funky colored hair?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So Russ Berry founded that company, and when he was retiring, he wanted his legacy to be in professional selling because he believed that the parent of a professional seller ought to introduce their son with the same pride as they would introduce an engineer or a doctor or a lawyer. And so he went to NYU, where that's his alma mater, and offered them millions of dollars to start the Russ Berry Institute for Professional Sales. They said, thanks, but no thanks. Willie P. in Wayne, New Jersey said, we'll take your money. We'll call it whatever you want. And so the Russ Berry Institute for Professional Sales was born at William Patterson. I credit Dr. Robert Peterson, who's actually a professor at Northern Illinois University, with me going for a sales minor. And fortunately enough, EMC, Hilti, McKesson, Ethicon, and many other companies recruited for their inside sales program from William Patterson. And so I go to Boston, engage in a scandalous office romance with my now husband, who's from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
And
What's up, Sean?
yeah. So I broke that rule, but it did work out for me. And it's why I'm in Cincinnati. He is from here. I moved here for love, and it's been awesome.
That's really cool. So when you were really focused on coming to Jersey, did you select that school in advance because you knew about that sales program? Was that your one criteria? Because there's a lot of listeners out here that are thinking about, how do I get going in sales, right? And this is kind of one of the main topics for today. But did you have that in mind, or did you fall into it when you got there?
I fell into it when I got there. So the reason for William Patterson was the proximity to my grandparents' house.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And just out of curiosity, what was it along the way? So you come to the U.S., you're figuring things out at school. What was the driver behind the decision to go into a sales college or sales degree?
I had majored in public relations in the communications school. And this is pretty technical, but I was on a green card and I wasn't allowed to come back to Qatar until I got the American passport. And so for you to be eligible, you have to live in the country for 5 years. I got my college degree in 4 years. And so my uncle said, well, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to work at a PR firm in New York City. And my uncle, in his wisdom, said, go look up what PR people coming out of college make and the average rent in New York. And very quickly, the math was not mathing. And so as a result, I went to the business school and met with each head, and the Professional Sales Institute sold me, shocker. And that's how it came to, that's how I joined the sales group. And I really credit, Dr. P was a huge influence because I was clueless, but I was very interested. I was comfortable, being uncomfortable, and that helped a lot, obviously, in the selling profession, as you both know. And that was a much better choice for post-college career path, obviously.
Yeah. What a cool story. I think it's fascinating because a lot of people that do listen to this podcast are either in college, don't know what they want to do yet, have interest in sales, or some people just know exactly what they want to do. So you figured it out along the way and kind of stumbled into it like many of us. Maybe totally. Just understanding. Oh, go ahead. Do you want to say something?
Just to say that for those folks who are considering colleges, the ones that have sales programs almost guarantee you livable wage employment post-college. And they're more and more popular. Yeah. Like Willie P was early, but the Shea Center at OU, where my husband went, and many others. So that's a great point to emphasize, that pick a school that has a sales center.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity. And I know University of Cincinnati has one I just found out about because I was interviewing someone the other day and they graduated from their program. So I think it's great that colleges are offering this now. Obviously, it's a huge profession and there's so many places you can go with it, as you've done. So maybe walk us through that first job. How did you land the first inside sales job, and what were some of the early learnings from that?
Sure. So William Patterson, the Russ Berry Institute, did a national sales challenge where leaders from inside sales organization would come and judge us. And it was a pitch, it was a role play, it was a mock interview, and I had made it to the final of my role play. And midway through the role play, I choked. Like my brain, my tongue went numb. I choked. It was this huge audience. I'm like, I do not belong. And I laughed it off and continued the conversation. And that made a really strong impression on the person there from EMC. Like where a few others who were interested in me said, she choked. EMC doubled down, and that meant the world to me. Missy McDonald, shout out to her. So from that point, took the job in Boston. Early learnings is that sales is a numbers game, and the only way to get the numbers is to have a high degree of activity. It's kind of working backwards from your desired outcome. If you're not achieving your desired outcome, you're either doing it wrong, but for you to say, oh, I'm doing it wrong, you have to be, doubling what the person next to you is doing to really assess if you're doing it wrong. And so when you realize that, like, this is a numbers game, you can always make one more call, send one more note, and so on and so forth. And so, like, learning that, whenever I would hit a wall or choke or get frustrated again, I went to, we'll just go make one more call. And one more call turned into 10 more calls. And that early learning really demystifies what it takes to be in sales.
Yeah.
Yeah, the EMC's known, Lara, because I spent some time there as well. They call it the big house.
Yeah.
When you're making a selection, and you probably had different opportunities, what should some of our listeners think about? Because EMC is a big company, kind of reminds me of the old IBM. So you made a selection. What was going through your mind as you were looking at opportunities, or did you just jump at EMC because they made you the offer?
I jumped at EMC because I really liked Missy, and the opportunity to move to Boston was very cool. Like me then, I was 20 years old, so the wisdom I've accumulated over the years was nil at that stage. But I did make the decision to come to ServiceNow and leave EMC and Dell, a place that I really loved working. And I think what inspired me a lot about ServiceNow was the leadership. So I think leadership, who's at the helm and what culture they're driving and what results they're driving is really important in a large company. If it's a large company that's already established product market fit, are they innovating? Have they launched new products in the last year? And if so, did they make a splash? There are definitely things to assess when moving from companies. If your flavor is more the startup arena, a great way to assess if it's going to be a good fit, because that is a risky endeavor, is the pedigree of the founders. Is it their first time? Is it their second time? If it is their first time, who is backing them, like the pedigree of the funders, the private equity, and then have they hired any big names? Have they been on podcasts like this? So there is definitely a matrix that is like encouraging, indicating factors when making decisions on companies. And those are just a few.
I think that's super insightful, and maybe going back for a moment, because when you're coming out, whether you start in a startup or a smaller company or a large company, when you get an experience like EMC, they've got great training, great development. You have mentors, and I want to get into the mentor piece for a second. But a lot of people will start a career and maybe they're 1 or 2 years before they make their next move. For you, it was almost 13 years. So you stayed at EMC for the duration of the launch of your career. So I'd love to understand, kind of that journey for you. Were there mentors along the way that kept you there? And is it because you kept progressing your career that you stayed? Was it the culture? What kept you at that company so long? And then you kind of shared why you made the change. But seeing someone that committed, that young is really impressive.
Well, thank you. I think that definitely comes from kind of families of origin. My grandfather started a company in Qatar when he was brand spanking new there that my uncles all worked for, and so on and so forth. And that worked out really well for my family after many years of instability. And so there was an element of, when my parents would check in with me, particularly early on, how are things going? Great. And someone would call. Oracle was like the company that would call to recruit. And I'm like, oh, I might look at this. And they would be like, well, stop. why? In the grand scheme of things, what is this going to do versus, watering? The grass is greener where you water it, so to speak. And I did find that to be very true. Where you continue to water the grass, it continues to grow green. And I never felt like there was a ceiling at EMC. And along the way, there were leaders who were willing to invest in me. And that's such a gift when you have someone who's walked the walk, can talk the talk, has done the job, who says, I'm going to invest in you. I didn't take that lightly. I really consider EMC for what it was when it was this like diamond in the world of tech. And to have been a part of their inside sales program, which in my opinion is unlike any other, and then graduate to the field and do leadership there, you just, there's no shortcuts to being great and resilient at what you do. And I found that to be the case betting on EMC year after year after year. Of course, until the best salesperson on the planet, Scott Atwater, called me. But that's a whole
Hello.
But that's a whole other story.
I have a question. So you moved from inside sales rep, so you were in the initial program, and then you went all the way to managerial roles. Like, what were some of the early wins or principles that you had to learn that guided that success?
I think because I was young amongst much, I was in my 20s working alongside folks in my 30s and 40s. What suited me best for career progression was taking the patches and the roles that those folks who were more tenured were kind of put off by, but someone needed to be there. Here was this young, eager person willing to do it with a smile on her face. Let's go. Like, I cannot,
Awesome.
yeah, I cannot overstate the importance of, bringing good energy when you come into the room and like, we got this attitude. And I think that you can hone that skill. It's like part of your nature, but then you hone it to your benefit. Nonetheless, it was taking those roles. And by the way, they're the best roles to learn in, because it's not, like no matter how many times you mess up, and boy, did I mess up. The upside was always greater than the potential results of messing up. So I would say take the hard roles, especially early in your career that feel risky, in the comfort of a large corporation. It's not like I was doing it on my own. So it had the elements of, your entrepreneurial spirit, but in reality, it was in the confines of a very well-established company. So take the hard roles is my recommendation to young people, if that answers your question, Demetri.
So, yeah, that does. For the listener that's a college student, because there's quite a few college students that listen to this.
Nice.
What's like one of the early mistakes, if you're able to share, that they can start studying on right now to be prepared for that first opportunity they get out of college?
It's the balance of taking things too seriously, but also recognizing that what you show up and do is important. Like, there's a time and place for play and a time and place for work. And this is so embarrassing, but we were measured on talk time. And there was this really, the cool kids crew of inside sales that would schedule con calls, no names shall be named, between that group. And their talk time was always like far and away more than anyone. So one day I was like, what are you guys doing?
They're talking to each other.
And we got caught. Yeah. Stop. I don't recommend it. Like, you talk about lessons learned and there are no shortcuts.
Yeah.
We got caught and it was so humiliating. But my point is, there's a time for play and a time for seriousness. And if you think you're going to shortcut the system, especially now when the tech is much more advanced, you are not. Show up humbly, do the work, take your mental break, come back and do the work. The whole adage of first to arrive, last to leave for college students, it is a needle mover. And I would love young people to embrace that more and more. I don't see it as much with youth. So for the college kids out there, don't think about it in the context of right now and the next year. You're building a life. You want to build life. You want to build generational wealth. To do that, the needle mover, you out hustle, outwork with a smile on your face.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Lara, because the natural progression for many of our listeners might be inside sales, you get a territory on your own, and then you may take a leadership role, and then you continue to grow that way. You had a little diversion that I'd love to dig into a little bit. EMC TV anchor. There's some footage of you out there that I've seen. Demetri found it as well. But a lot of people get, burned out maybe on year 3, and they say, man, maybe it's time to move to another company. Grass might be greener, which we all know oftentimes is not the case. How did you make that divergence, and how did you find it, and what did you learn?
It's a really funny story. Early on, I was in Qatar on vacation during my inside sales tenure, and the vice chairman of EMC at the time sent an email to all inside sales people saying, my scope presentation is a little dry. Can anyone in inside sales do some skits? And I'd like to put them as a part of my presentation. And I read the email, I was traveling on vacation, but an idea came to me, and my family helped execute. And so I did a music video, and the lyrics were something like...
Here we go with the music.
Yeah. So, well, no, it's Kesha's rap song, like, wake up in the morning feeling like Joe Tucci, who was the CEO of EMC at the time. And I had a picture of Joe Tucci, and I was like, I got to make all my cold calls so I can buy me my Gucci. So I just did this video. And so it was played at G.O.A.T and produced by EMC TV at the time. And then they asked me to come and do interviews at EMC World, which was such a treat. I mean, what a joy. And so that's how it happened. And I got to sit down with people like Pat Gelsinger and Michael Dell and Sanjay Mirchandani of G.O.A.T. And it was just so cool. And they were all these executives, very nice, very down to earth. You have them for 15 minutes. They were all lovely. And yeah, I shout out to David Ross and that team, EMC TV.
So Billy, do you see that? The fact that you took the bull by the horns, it did something fun like that, is really impressive. So oftentimes at ServiceNow, Billy, I don't know about you, we'll ask for people to kind of role play and then post their video. A lot of people blow it off.
Yeah.
And they don't take advantage of that moment. You took advantage of it, Lara. Billy, do you see that as well? Most people blowing it off. And what advice would you give our listeners?
I think her advice has been outstanding so far. This has been very insightful. So you said it, get comfortable. You said it at the beginning, Lara, get comfortable being uncomfortable. And sometimes just putting yourself out there. There's 2 things that really stand out to me. Number one, the fact that you wanted the more challenging dirt, right? Where do people don't want to, what are the territories people don't want? So many salespeople give up too quick, and there's too many excuses of why this isn't the right fit, where sometimes it really is. At the end of the day, you hear about resilience and perseverance and the things that really matter, but those that really put their head down, do the right thing, show up well like you're talking about, ultimately they're going to be successful, right? Because sales it's a numbers game. It's not just all numbers. It's not just, quantity, it's quality, but doing the right activities consistently ultimately will help you prevail and be successful. And that's what you did. And also not being afraid to put yourself out there and try something that's different and new, because ultimately this is a collection of experiences that you have built over the last 13 years. And now you move into a new organization. And you've got all kinds of lessons that you can bring into a new environment, not only to help that company be successful, but also help grow the people around you. So I think it's a huge opportunity for young sellers to really take on more, to want more responsibility, to be eager to take on stretch assignments. And I also think as leaders, we've got to spot that talent and do a better job of giving people like Lara those opportunities.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So Lara, after your TV musical career, I know the music's still going. I wanted you to sing on this podcast, but I'm going to maybe when we invite you back, we'll ask you to sing, because I know you play guitar as well. But let's just kind of morph into some qualities because you're one thing that I think a lot of things differentiate you, but one thing is I think you can spot talent. So again, for our audience out there, that they're thinking about sales, some of the traits, you mentioned one of them being energy. Billy, take advantage of opportunities. What else comes to mind that you look for, right, for our audience out there that they could say, well, I've got these traits, or I've got to work on these traits to be a really true sales star?
Yeah, and I think if I'm talking to someone coming out of college, it's the questions would have a different nature because they don't have experience. But
Hmm.
those coming out of college, you really want to think about your why. So like, why do I wake up and work hard? Where does that come from? When motivation fails me, I keep going because I am committed. And so why am I committed? There's just a really good internal checking yourself and holding yourself accountable conversation that has to be ongoing, because let's admit motivation will fail us, but we still persist because it has to be commitment that is more important than motivation. So coming out of college, I would say your vision for your life, which is a tough question to ask someone coming out of college. When it was asked to me, I was like, I don't know. I really have to think about it. So do think about it. I want to be rich. Great. I want to be married and have a family, whatever that might be. I want to make a million. I want to be a millionaire by the time I'm 30. So you have that vision for yourself. You want to enter the sales profession. That's not a pipe dream if you know why you are showing up and you do show up every day and make the right career decisions. With folks who have had sales experience, I'm very interested to know, can they message? So like, what do you sell today? What are you most excited about? Like when you sell what you sell, why does it excite you? I really care a lot about that because I've always cared about what I've sold. Other companies have tried to throw buku dollars at me and peers, and could I wake up and sell this? And some of the best salespeople can. So if that's you, more power to you. But can you message? So storytelling. Do you have a track record of great activity? Can you think about your week and tell me, oh, I plan out my week in this way, and this is how I'm the most productive week over week? In my estimation, having done this for now 15 years, how you assess your week over week productivity is more important than any other measure. Like every week, you have a few things that are a goal. You set a goal and you achieve that goal. Do you have a track record of performance? Are you a jumper? Or do you show loyalty, like seeing things through? 3+ years is, I would say, in our current um, in our current culture, I was is fair.
Yeah.
And then operational command, and can you build champions? And you guys could have a whole session on operational command, but can you build champions? Could I call a customer that you've sold to before and they would say, oh yeah, I'd buy from Scott if he moved here? So those are the things that I assess in an interview.
And you can see that when you're traveling, around the country and you're going out with different people in the market as a leader, it's so obvious the people that put in that time and preparation and they have those goals from themselves. And you can just tell by the conversations how passionate they are about what they're positioning or what they're selling. And for others, it's not that maybe they aren't as passionate, maybe they're newer, they're learning, but are they doing those extra things? Are they reaching out to their peers? Are they learning from some of their customers, the friendly customers? There's so many different ways you can sharpen those skills. And so maybe transitioning topics for a second, something that we believe is really important is obviously ongoing professional development, personal professional development. What are some things that you do to keep yourself sharp and continue to develop your skills as a leader and a seller?
Besides listening to Goat's Gravy, of course.
That's right.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Besides listening to Goat's Gravy, I still go on sales calls. I think that just leading from behind a computer is kind of the antithesis of being able to lead your team in the job that they do. So going on sales calls and having tough conversations and fine tuning has been probably one of the things that I feel like I've developed a ton in. 5 years ago, if a customer disagreed with me, I would argue with them to try to convince them. Well, you realize that that's like the least effective way to handle those
Hmm.
situations. And when you have that aha moment after enough like lost battles, you switch your tact, and while the outcomes are different. So I think, continuing to sharpen your skills by being in the arena is important. I value my mentors a lot. And in fact, my mentees, as we were talking, I'll mention a reverse mentorship tidbit. One of my mentees, who I've mentored since she was in high school and she is now in tech, says, grab the effing pen. And that's just like taking ownership of your life. If you have the pen down, you're not writing your story. And so it's just a good question to tell yourself. And, she's an amazing, amazing young talent. And I remember her sometimes, and I'm like, okay, grab the pen. You are writing your story. So sales calls is really big. Mentorship is huge. And then personally, I value a lot understanding the technology and what you're selling. And so I do spend the time to listen to, okay, we have a release. What's new? In this day and age, tech and, talent within corporate America, in my case, ServiceNow, make this content so consumable and consumer friendly that it takes me 10 minutes, sometimes 15, to be like, oh wow, next time I meet with a CIO or next time I lead a team call, I'm going to have the top 5 things of this release that is super impactful for our customers. So just caring about what you sell and having that 2.0 knowledge and desire to have that 2.0 knowledge of it. So I
Yeah,
hope that answers
the
your
the
question.
mentor piece. Can I
Yeah.
ask you a little bit about that, Lara?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of our younger listeners might not used to be that they're not used to the concept of mentorship, and they may be thinking a mentor is just going to fall in their lap. So as you go seek mentorship, even within ServiceNow or outside of ServiceNow, which is also super valuable, how exactly do you go find those people? Because a lot of the younger talent that I talk to don't have mentors. And I think it may be connected to that activity piece that you leverage within your sales. But can you kind of reference how do you go find mentors, or what advice would you have for our listeners to go find a mentor that could be very impactful to their overall career?
Totally. So, if you're in college, it's a tad more challenging, but it has a lot to do with who you know, who your network knows. If you're active on LinkedIn, I know there are some college kids that have reached out to folks like leaders that they like to follow on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, I really admire how you post and what you post, and I'm a young in career professional seller. Can you spare 30 minutes to give me some guidance?" So just kind of people that you come across on LinkedIn that you're interested in. It starts with you seeking it out, of course. They don't fall into your lap. If they do fall into your lap, have a plan so that they stay on your lap. And then within a company, it's you start by asking you ask your frontline manager, I'd like to have a mentor. They pair you up. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But then the more visible you are in the organization, the more you will meet people who end up being sometimes unofficial mentors, and those relationships blossom. But the idea is you have a place to go where you can ask your sincere questions, or, get guidance on situations that are either you're planning to do something, I want some guidance, or I'm unsettled and I would like some guidance. That's how when I think about it early on, before a true kind of long-term connection is forged with a mentor. I have a really good plan I want to run by you. I'm unsettled by something. Can you give me some guidance? To just go open-handed and say, hey, what do you think about life? It does not, have a plan, and whether it's something that you want to do or something that you are planning to react to, it's always good to seek mentorship.
Question. Say somebody's looking to take that route you took. Like, what are some of the just practical things they could be asking in that initial conversation? Because I feel like a lot of people get that opportunity and then kind of blow it, right? They don't have
Yeah.
direction with how to navigate that conversation when they can get so many nuggets out. What are like a few questions that you would ask if they're really trying to prove to the mentor that they have a good head on their shoulders and they want to grow?
I think it starts with setting the table that you care very much about your career and that you're very grateful for the opportunity to have the time to seek guidance from someone who you admire. And then you would ask something like, I'd like to differentiate myself in the next 3 to 6 months so that I'm a no-brainer team lead, so that I'm a no-brainer promotion candidate. What have you seen people do that differentiate themselves? That's one example. Like, what practical guidance can you give me to differentiate myself? Right now, there's a lot of emphasis on just cross pollination, specifically in corporate America. So you could also ask, like, I'd like to expand my network beyond sales, to just see how marketing wakes up and thinks about the world, so that I can be a better seller and partner to marketing. Who can you connect me? Or something like, I know that XYZ, culture pillar is important to us. How can I help, host an event with your partnership in promoting this culture pillar? If it is a culture pillar that is important. So if you're talking to someone who you've heard speak and you're drawn to them, find out what it is that, not find out, remember what it is that drew you to them, reference it and say, can you do an event together? It's just about like getting that, just like with a customer, a good sales call means you got that second sales call. If you want someone to be your mentor, you want to ask or do something that gives you, hey, I'd like to follow up with you on this in a month or whatever. Are those some tangible examples?
Yeah, very valuable advice, by the way. And the only thing I'd add to it is make sure you're following up. I just think it's an important trait when you have someone that you're reaching out to for advice. When you put that advice to work and it benefits you, give them a boomerang. Come back to them and say, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that was great advice. I used it in this way at a board meeting. This is what happened, et cetera. I think it goes a long ways, and it shows people that what they gave you was valuable and meant something to you. And I just think it's good to appreciate that. And by the way, I do also believe that this is a mindset. Like, if you want to grow, it doesn't matter how old you are. It's about wanting to continue to grow and get better and be better. And so, like, even for me, the people I mentor also mentor me, and people I give advice to, I also will in turn go to them and ask their advice on other topics. And I think any opportunity I have to sit down and have coffee with someone, it's all about networking, continuous networking, but just talking to people from other industries. I mean, Scotty and I talk about challenges all the time that we're having in our business, and just to get different perspective.
Yeah.
And it's amazing what you can pick up, just from having those conversations. So it should be an ongoing, real breathing thing.
Yeah, I just had a mentor session today, and Lara, I think the point that you made about grabbing the pen really resonates. And what this individual did is they documented 3 buckets, what we talked about in our past session, and we're really building upon that. And that told me, as someone that wants to help mentor, that they're taking it seriously, that we're building on what we talked about in the past. And the cool thing for our younger listeners out there, for any of the listeners out there that are seeking mentorship, do a nice job of reflection prior to the session, right? Because this gentleman that I was talking to today was, here's where I'm struggling. And that's where we started, right? And he was like, he did a great job reflecting on where his weaknesses were. And then I jumped in, and then we were building and building and building. So I love a lot of that comment that you made. Grab the pen, that can mean a lot of different things.
Yeah, that's great.
But it really wanted me to set that next session with him, and that next one. I got excited. And Billy, to your point, at the end of the conversation, I picked up a couple things, right, from this guy that you got to be open on both sides.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome. And, you guys both said mindset, and it is the springboard in which we deploy our energy. And when you start thinking about it in that sense, if your day is going to be good or bad. And so, like, the internal check yourself, like, is my mindset being deployed from like a really crummy place? I gotta go fix that and check it. And breathing is great, or just however you snap out of it. But sometimes we need those little middle of the day snap out of it, because your mindset will determine the outcome of your day, your call, etc., etc.
Especially in the world of sales,
it's a great
right?
point. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Well, listen, so this has been, there's so many great nuggets to pull from this. And so to kind of close out, one of the things, the reason we call it Goat's Gravy is we are interviewing the greatest of all time sellers from our network and our network's network, and it continues to go from there. The gravy is really just the secret sauce, or the sauce that's made you successful along the way. So maybe as we close out, I know I've taken a lot away from this conversation, but if you could just summarize 2 or 3 things that you think are most important that you'd want to leave with our audience about what's led to your success throughout your career, and maybe things they should consider, what would those be?
So the journey within oneself leads you to the ability to master yourself. And I would say that you're going into a career in sales, and I think that's awesome, and it's going to try you at every turn, and that is a gift, and that's by design. And beyond that is like this big win that reminds you exactly why you got into it. But I would say, know thyself, because there are sellers who are introverts, extroverts, middle of the road. So there's no one profile. And so how you show up really has to be congruent with your nature as a person. And something I tell my team, because like you said, ferocious bulldog. My team is not a group of ferocious bulldogs. Some are like Siamese cats. Others are really effective llamas. So the point is, come with my level of energy, but deploy it in a way that's congruent with your nature. And so when maybe someone comes on too strong, or you feel like things are a little bit too intense, your answer isn't to be turned off as a young person, particularly if it's someone who's proven. Where you want to go is, okay, what are they trying to say? How would I do it in a way that's congruent with my nature to drive that exercise? I can't emphasize knowing thyself so that you can show up thinking about like the outcome versus like getting caught up in awkwardness, not fear, whatever the case is. So know thyself, know thy customer. If a customer who has a buying power is giving you their precious time, treat it like it's their precious time. Do your research, show that you've done your research, and then don't be presumptive. Like, I've done my research, but I want to know, this is another phrase that you can use. I've read, this was my insight, but in your own words, how do you talk about this stuff? Or what would this mean to you in your own words? And then, know thy pitch. If you're going to wear a jersey at an, elite software, hardware, whatever company, or you want to work at an elite software, hardware company, you want to wear the jersey, you better be worth wearing the jersey, which means know your pitch. Care enough to get to know why it is your company is so successful. And I would say like those three things: know thyself, know thy customer, know thy pitch in sales.
That is awesome.
So impressive.
She's making me feel like I don't know my pitch.
I can't wait to have a recruiter reach out to you tomorrow.
Yeah, Billy, you cannot recruit her. She's off limits.
I'm going to personally recruit this one. No, that was outstanding. It's one of the best we've had. So really, really great job. Really enjoyed meeting you. So many wonderful pieces of information. Your wisdom is impressive, especially for a young professional. And you've proven it. You've been very successful with everything you've done. So congratulations to you, and we wish you nothing but the best of luck. We're also going to pull you back in because you've got great things to share, so we'll want to hear from you again. So thank you for spending time with us. Scott, anything you want to say?
No, that's it. That's it. And when I was looking for a leader in Ohio, there's a reason why my network told me there's one person you got to go get, Billy. Guess who it was? Lara El-Ghazal. Go grab her.
Thank you. Praise God. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure working alongside you, Lara. You are you're a true inspiration. And everyone I asked the question to, they got right back to me, right? And they said, this is Lara, in a couple sentences. So I just really appreciate working with you on a day-to-day basis, and I'm looking forward to doing more of that. And when you call, I always look forward to picking up the phone.
Ditto.
It's not how she feels about you calling.
No, ditto. I miss him. Oh, God. Scott is a very special place in my heart. No way.
He's a great guy. He is. He's a talented dude.
Yeah. But thank you, Lara. Thank you for taking your time.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you so much. Demetri, good to meet you. Thank you so much, Billy. Thanks.
All right, we'll see you.
See ya.
And that brings us to the end of another episode of The Goat's Gravy. We've shared some awesome insights and strategies aimed at enhancing your journey in sales. And the conversation does not have to stop here. So be sure to follow us on social media at The Goat's Gravy and explore more at thegoatsgravy.com. Your journey towards sales mastery is ongoing, and we're here to support you at every step. So thank you for tuning in today. Stay curious, stay driven, and we'll see you on the next episode. Take care.